Hey everybody, it's Chris Loud. In this video I'm going to show you how I take a painting done on paper and mount it to a wood panel. So this is a wood panel made of birch. It's by Arteza. It's an 8x8. You can see the ends are quite nice. And before I use any wood panel, or I've done a wooden guitar I've painted on, I will go ahead and seal it with this GAC 100 by Golden. It's an acrylic primer and extender, although I've never used it as an extender, but I prep all of my wood pieces with this. It basically seals it, so once you start painting on it or putting anything down on it, the moisture doesn't soak into the wood right away and dry out whatever you're working with. So it helps you work with whatever medium, whether that's paint or a gel medium, anything. It will work so much easier once you've sealed it. So this painting was done on let's see, it was a 98-pound 160 GSM mixed media paper. It's a little bit thinner than watercolor paper, but it's perfect to mount on here. So the first thing I do once I have this painting done is I will, you can see that I've got some charcoal in here. I'll go ahead and take this workable fixative, I'll give it a quick spray and let that dry. That way anything I have on here that might smear, like charcoal or pencil or chalk pastels or water-soluble pastels, things that would smear once I start varnishing it, I'll give that a spray and let that dry. And then I did this one, I varnished this one with one coat just of a satin varnish from Liquitex, a very thin coat just to kind of seal that. Once I have that sealed, I will press this. I'll put this under on a flat surface and put some books or weights or something on it. Let's see here, got this, just this wood panel. I will flip that over, lay that down, put weights on it. And to protect the painting itself, I will put parchment paper down first, because that is a non-stick paper, and put that down and then stack books or whatever on that, and that will flatten that out after you varnished it. Now it's important to let the varnish dry before you do that, but I get a lot of questions about working with paper and buckling and warping, and that's something that will definitely help with that. If it's really warped or buckled before you are going to varnish it, I would go ahead and press it like I just showed you before you varnish it. Let that sit overnight, then varnish it, and then press it again, and it really will take out any of the warping or buckles out of that. If you have a lot of texture, that might cause a little bit issues when pressing, so just kind of be wary about that. But when I paint these paintings and I tape off my page, let's see if I've got one right here. So when I tape these off, these are 8x8. And what I will do is I will always add just a little extra on the edge. So I'm painting this painting a little bit larger than what it might show up. And I'm talking, maybe an extra 1/8 of an inch combined on each side. So not a whole lot. But the reason that I do that is if I'm going to have the option of mounting that paper on here, I have done it before where I've done exactly 8x8, and when I cut this down, it's not exact, so a little bit shows over. And then I've got to try and match the paint to the wood. Or I know some people will just paint black and have that there, but I really like to have the paper go and cover the whole surface of that wood. So I'll show you at the end. I've cut this a little bit big, just slightly. So there's going to be a little bit once I'm done mounting this that I'm going to have to trim off the edges. But I'm going to go ahead and mount this first and then let that dry. I'll come back and I'll show you that trimming there. So let's go ahead and mount this. So I'm going to use matte gel medium, and I'm just going to take my brush here, and I've got also have this color shaper that will help me spread that around to the edges if I need to. But I'm going to put quite a bit on here. And then take this. You want to make sure you get all the way to the edge when you're putting this medium on. It's usually the edge that causes you problems, where if it's not stuck, you don't have enough on there, you'll have to go back and play with that a little bit more, which isn't a problem. That happens, and there are easy ways to take care of that. Now I'm going to move this painting out of the way so I don't get any of this gel medium on it. Get a little bit more down here. If you have any clumps in there, this is an old thing of gel medium, so I have a few little dried pieces that are starting to connect in there. And one thing you will need, it's not required, you don't have to have this, but it makes it a lot easier if you have a brayer. Alright, so I don't want to work this too much and let it dry out, but I want to make sure I've got everything covered there. So I'm going to take my painting, and this one, some of the edges are just about perfect. They line up almost exact. So I've just got to kind of get that on there and make sure that none of the wood is showing on the edges. I've actually lined that up pretty well. So once I have that on there, I'm going to go ahead and put wax paper down, or excuse me, parchment paper, cooking paper down, and I'm going to take my trusty brayer, and I'm just going to start pushing some of that glue to make sure I don't get any bubbles in there. Now if you have a piece that has a lot of texture to it, this is a nice hard rubber brayer. For something that's pretty flat, it does a great job. But if it has a lot of texture, you'll have to probably use a brayer, and sometimes I have a smaller brayer, it's 2.5 inches. I'll use that, and then I can use my hands to kind of push out some of those bubbles where the texture is. Now the reason I'm putting parchment paper down here, for two reasons. One, I don't want to roll this brayer over my painting now that I've got it varnished and everything. But you can already pretty see this white line here, and I'm already almost doing what I don't want to do. When you're using this brayer, it's going to push that gel medium, that glue basically, out on the edges. If you're using this brayer just on the surface, you're going to pick up some of that glue, and then as you're pressing, it's going to get all over the painting. Now, not a huge deal if it does. You can wipe that off, because I already see a couple areas where I have it. And what I'm going to do very quickly is take this baby wipe and just kind of wipe that off. I think that was the only spot. I'm just kind of looking now. I've got my little finger covers on here that I use to keep as much paint off my fingers when I'm touching the paint and the surface. So I'm just going to use my finger to wipe some of that extra gel medium away. And make sure I don't get any of that on the painting surface itself. I've got quite a bit over here, so I need to be kind of careful. And I'm just wiping this onto my apron at the moment. Okay. I'm going to take a paper towel and wipe a little of that moisture away real quick that I just got from the baby wipe. Alright. Now I'm going to put my parchment paper back. Just do it again. And this edge here needed a little bit more attention than the other, so I'm just gonna kind of focus on that. And I'm already seeing a little bit more of this. The gel medium coming out and some bubbles coming out. Let's try that again, see how that looks. All right, so I've got a little bit of gel medium there. And some on the edges. So it's just kind of one of those things where you roll over it and kind of check, get some of that glue off the edges. And I'm not seeing anything too much now. It looks like it's pretty good here. Now let's just look at the edge here. You see a little bit of glue here, which I'll wipe away. And then I've got an edge. This corner is not quite stuck. A couple of areas that might need some help, but mainly that corner. So I'm going to take this palette knife here. I'm just going to get a little bit of this gel medium and kind of place it under there. Press that down. All right. So I think I am pretty good with that. It's pretty even. I don't see any bubbles. Got a little bit there maybe. So let's try and take care of that. I'm going to grab another piece of parchment paper because that one already got a little bit of glue on it. I don't want to risk anything there. But it's actually a pretty easy process. It's not real complicated. You just have to, like I said, kind of watch for the glue that's coming out of the edges, and so that doesn't get on the painting at all. So, like I just did there. But again, you just kind of pay attention to what you're doing, and it typically is a pretty easy thing to do. I'm going to put this parchment paper down, and I'm going to lay this flat down here, and I'm going to go ahead and take this paper towel along the edge and just wipe up any extra of that gel medium that's coming along the edges. Okay, so with that, I'm going to go ahead and press that. I'm going to let that dry, and then I'm going to come back once it's dry, and we will continue on with this. So I'm just going to put this board down here and put a couple of, like I said, I have some weights in here, which come in really handy. I'd love to tell you that I'm actually working out with these weights every day, and that's why I have them in here, but I actually had these in my garage and thought these would be great to press, a lot easier than stacking books. But, you know, books work out really well. So let's let that dry. I'll come back and we will continue. Okay, so I've let this dry overnight. One thing that I didn't mention to you is make sure you are pressing this on a nice flat surface. So you can see I've got all this texture on this table. I ran my hand over this cutting mat and realized there were some lumps from all the texture on the table, and I just had this being pressed onto the mat. So I decided to get another board and put that down, and I have another table that I typically will press these on. But let's go ahead and see how this worked out. Really want to make sure that that one corner was able to fix well and stick. So let's see here. So bubble wise, that looks good, nice and smooth. Corners look great. Yeah, that stuck just well, just really well. Okay, so I do have a little bit overhang, almost everywhere, every edge. So I'm going to take an X-Acto knife really quick, and I'm going to go ahead and trim those and get that nice and even. One thing that I do want to mention is that you can see that I have not painted the edges of this. I personally like a nice natural wood look on the edge of these, but you know, feel free to do what you want. I know a lot of artists paint these black or white, or they try and match the paint on the painting itself. I find doing that with a painting like this is a little difficult unless you're just painting directly on it and you can pull over the paint when you're painting it. But for a piece of paper, you know, I actually like how this looks. So that's my own personal preference. You know, do it the way you want to do it. I'm going to go ahead and cut these real quick. I realize I'm cutting onto this board, so I'm going to go ahead and pull that board out. Do it on the actual cutting mat. And I go ahead and leave the parchment paper down when I'm cutting. I don't mind cutting into that. I'd rather do that and protect the surface of the painting. This one is almost perfect here. So it looks like I've got a few little areas that I need to kind of clean up. Looks like another one over here. I'm not talking a whole lot while I'm doing this because I just want to concentrate on cutting here and doing this as precise as possible. All right. Let's make sure I've got everything the way I want it. This one has a few little pieces that I was not able to get very well, so one thing to remember is to keep your blade really sharp. All right. So sometimes when you're cutting, the edge will kind of curl up on you just a little bit. So if that happens, I will grab a roller and just kind of roll over the edge just slightly. Do that. So that's basically it. I'll put all the tools and materials in the description if you're interested in those. And I'll show you, after this step, I go ahead and I will go ahead and prep this to hang. If you want to see how I do that, so I'll do it like this basically. But if you want me to do a video on prepping it like this, go ahead and let me know. This is one that I was talking about. You can see the texture in here. So when I did this particular one, this is all acrylic skins that I put down originally. I do have a video on this particular painting. But when I put that down, I had little areas where I could use the roller, but then I had to kind of massage the bubbles out with my fingers, just to make sure that was nice and smooth. And then, you know, when you're pressing it, and I did press this one, even though it's got some, you can see how big some of these areas are and how raised they are. I was able to press this just fine. I believe on this one, actually put the board on top and then parchment paper on top, the board on top, and then put weights on it like this. Just a little different than how I normally do it. But that's it. So these work out really well. You know, they have different sizes of these boards, so you can get this is 8 by 10. I think, you know, you can get some pretty affordable boards up to I think 24 by 24, if I'm not mistaken. I think this company makes. But yeah, if you have any questions or comments, feel free to leave those for me down below. And if you like this video, feel free to give it a thumbs up. If you want to see more videos like this, feel free to subscribe. And thank you for watching, and keep on painting.